Welcome back to the Modern Horror Stories podcast with Dave, Jamie, and Alex. Yesterday we reviewed the movie You're Next, and today we're going to be telling you how we would make it better. Kudos to the people who actually did make this film. It's very difficult to pull together any kind of production, and we haven't made a film as yet. But that doesn't stop us from sharing our three things on how to improve it. Bearing in mind that we'll probably be giving away a lot of spoilers during this episode. If you haven't seen the film, go and see it now. So, with the greatest respect to the original filmmakers, I'll go first. I like the film quite a lot, and so my improvements are quite subtle. So the first thing I would improve is just the real-world behaviour. Quite early in the film, a crossbow starts firing into the windows, and everyone hits the floor, doing exactly what you would do to avoid these, arrows coming through the windows. But that seems to be lost fairly quickly. And then later in the movie, they're standing in front of windows and looking out and things like that. And I really like my real world behavior to be consistent. So I would pick up a bit more on that. Also, the second thing is there's a few twists and turns in this movie, and it relies on a quite a major plan that's contrived by some members of the family and the killers. And they've decided to put one of the killers inside the house, which I thought, because I like the movie and I think it's quite a clever concept, I thought if they'd thought it through so well, they wouldn't put one of the killers up in the bedroom, because the mother and the father turn up first. They could easily have walked into that bedroom. The killer would have had to start immediately killing members of the family. The whole plan would have gone astray. So if they had to have a killer in the house, maybe I would have put him up in the attic or down in the basement, or find some clever way to get him into the house. And the third thing that I would change in this movie is I gave this film a high score. I gave it an 8 out of 10, which is just below what I would consider a real classic horror movie. And what would it take to take it to that next level? And I decided what it needed was just a key set piece that really sticks in the mind. I mean, there's a lot of great moments in the film. We talked about some of them yesterday, but I feel like it still needed one key set piece. A bit like in Jaws, you've got the kill right at the beginning with the woman on the beach going walking into the ocean. In Psycho, you've got the shower scene, and I felt like it needed one iconic standout scene to take it to the next level. And the only place I could think of putting it would be right at the beginning, where there's two people in a cabin nearby and they get killed. And so maybe that could have been taken to a next level. Maybe at that point, rather than thinking maybe there's only one killer at that point because there's multiple killers, maybe show early on that there's 3 or 4, maybe more, and just ramp up the action for that opening attention getter scene. It's been difficult for me to improve this movie. Well done to the filmmakers. How would you guys improve this film?
Okay, so I'm going to do a well done to the filmmakers as well, because I haven't made a film and it's hard to make a film. Having said that, if I were going to attempt to make a film, I'd strengthen that central relationship. I think the relationship between this main couple that we have is so important for the rest of the film that we believe that relationship, and I didn't. We're doing spoilers here, so I think it's fair enough to say right at the end of the film, you find out that Christian, the main character's boyfriend, is in fact in on the whole thing. He's an utter bastard. But the thing is, it didn't affect you that much unless you have a solid 5-10 minutes at the start of the film where we understand what these two are like outside of the context of this film. We need to understand what their normality is, I think, in order to sort of, for the rest of the film to have an effect. I suppose if you look at Get Out, for example, you have this 5 minutes and it's the main couple, they're chatting, and she's going, oh, come along, we'll go to my parents' house. And he goes, do they know I'm black? And that's the setup for the film. And you get the sense that these two have a really strong relationship, but at the same time, there are these sort of anxieties. And yeah, I needed that. The second thing is I maybe wanted, and this I can give or take, but I maybe wanted to learn a bit more about this survivalist compound. And that was one of the mysteries, essentially, not just why are these killers getting in, but also how is she able to do all of that. So maybe that could have been set up in some way if we had some sort of subplot or flashback that made it clear that she was able to do this stuff, but at the same time, we didn't quite understand her motives. So if, for example, we have flashbacks of her doing awful, brutal things, that way we might start to think, oh God, have we got this unreliable protagonist here? Or just finding a way of turning her a bit more actively into one of the mystery boxes of this film. And the third thing is just maintaining a bit more tonal consistency, because there are a few different tones that this film takes, and it sort of veers between naturalism and satire and parody, and it never quite hits one tone. So I think I would have probably tried to kind of keep it more in the realms of satire. Because, this idea of a family stuck in this big house together, and there's all sorts of violence and, literal and metaphorical backstabbing going on. It sets up Succession, but with murder. I think that would have been a lovely premise if the dialogue had been as sharp as some of the weapons, and we just had a bit of satirical sort of sharpness, bit of edge, and maybe something to say about this family as well, rather than just letting them all die. I'd quite like to know the film's hit on this family and on their relationships with each other. So yes, my third thing I think is to find something satirical in there and to sort of weave it throughout to make something consistent. Jamie, thoughts?
I want to see the series Succession with murder. And there was lots that I loved about this, and I agree there was some inconsistency. And I feel that one thing that I would change is to choose to either invest more in these characters, like let us see the background of them rather than just a random group of people who happen to be in the same room, which is how it felt. Even though they were like, oh, you're my mother, you're my brother, that it's still, I didn't feel that. And I didn't get how these events affected them other than they're people in a scary situation. So I think either give us that investment and let us access these characters, or scrap all that and just go for all out carnage and horror and gore and forget about, don't need the characters. Just this is a scary situation with some random people. Let's work with that. I would definitely get rid of the your next bit, or again commit to it. And there were some bits of the filmmaking that I really loved. Like some of the camera work was brilliant, some of the lighting was brilliant, the sound was fantastic. But the main thing I would change is there's this sequence where the carnage first starts, where it's all shaky camera for the entire sequence and quick edits and quick cuts. So you can't really see what's going on. So the impact of things doesn't really land because it's just shaky. And also, if I was watching this in a cinema, I think I would feel incredibly unwell. As it was, I was actually watching it in VR, which I felt sick during that scene. I had to stop watching it and switch over to watching it on a laptop because it was just, it went on for so long and was so shaky, and it was so this uncomfortable to watch in that sense, like just a physically nauseous to watch. And also you don't really get the moments that way if you can't really see what's going on. And another scene that had a similar sort of thing, that there was the photography scene, which I thought it had a great payoff, but the lead up to it was, again, very uncomfortable to watch, this bright flashing, and I don't think it added much. Or they could have got through that scene quicker, like have the person who's approaching the camera just go there quicker, or I don't know, work it some different way. But the payoff was quite nice. Her killing this guy in flashes. So I think they could have just cut to that bit much quicker. Yeah, those are my three things. Commit to You're Next or not. Commit to the family or not. And allow us to see what's going on. We don't need all the shaking and all the flashing. The rest of the filmmaking is beautiful. So just go with that.
It does feel a little bit like we've revisited yesterday, where we disagreed quite largely on this movie. I feel like I hear your point about either go for no character and carnage or more character development and more meaning. And obviously there's a gradient in between. And for me, it was exactly the right spot. Also, Alex, using dialogue as sharp as the weapons is something that I'm going to be stealing from you to use in a future.
I felt dreadful when I said it. I've got to say, I thought, God, you cliche, awful, awful man. And as soon as it came out of my mouth, the feeling of regret, dreadful. But anyway, it's going up on the internet now, so there's nothing I can do about it.
Exactly. And the thing is, I feel that in a way, that is a metaphor for how we feel about this movie, because I'm happy to live with that cliche as much as I'm happy to live with the cliches in this movie.
Fair enough. And yeah, and Jamie and I will constantly just be irritated at those cliches and we'll never let it go. But at the end of the day, these filmmakers did a great job. I could make a film like You're Next. So there we are, you know.
Oh, one extra piece of trivia. I was stunned to find out that the writer, the director of this movie, also worked on Godzilla, Kong, The New Empire, which is a completely different type of movie to this one.
I'll have to give that one a watch then, and yeah, see if it works for me.
And on that note, have our improvements changed this film into a better movie, or have we ruined a masterpiece? Let us know in the comments below. And if you've got your suggestions for how to improve You're Next, again, put them in the comments below. And we will see you again soon for another podcast.